this is gonna be a hard one to review. I've already stated in my last two reviews that I'm not a huge monster movie guy. Like, not the Japanese kaiju monster kind of guy. So, naturally, I'm not really going to be the biggest fan of these kind of things, but, I mean, it's a movie that is classic, and it is one of those movies where we do actually get to see two popular franchises cross over, much like a couple other pretty famous crossovers from the past, like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, Freddy vs. Jason, Alien vs. Predator. Like, it's a rare occurrence when these movies happen, except when you're Toho, because Toho has made a legacy out of making these weird-ass crossover movies. So, this is the one that started it all, and it was King Kong's first return to the big screen after, his big introduction in 1933. This is a movie that's widely regarded as one of the best by kaiju fans. And, yeah, like I said, I'm not a kaiju fan, so I'm going to look at this with a more critical lens. Let's talk about King Kong vs. Godzilla, and let's just hope and pray that the kaiju fan base doesn't eat me alive. Is this a bad movie? No. This is not a bad movie, not by any stretch of the imagination. But, is it good? Kinda. It's fun. It's turn your brain off, stupid, cheesy, goofy, mindless fun. But as a film, it has a lot of problems. Like, a lot. Way more than King Kong 33 or Godzilla 54 did, so. But hey, it's Oscar-worthy compared to what we have to, review next. We'll talk about that at the end. But, welcome back to Animation Station, welcome back to Atomic Kings. Here's my quick, probably controversial review for King Kong vs. Godzilla. Hope you enjoy. This is going to be a difficult one to talk about because it's clearly meant to be dumb and silly. But regardless, here's my personal thoughts on it. This is not a bad movie. Just want to make that very clear before the kaiju fans start attacking me. It is a pretty fun watch, and the battle between these two monsters is pretty fun. It lives up to what you want. But as a movie, it is full of problems. But we'll talk about the positives first. The fight is pretty good. I do really like the fight between King Kong and Godzilla. It's over the top, it's cheesy, it's stupid, but it's in all the right ways. It's what you want out of a monster clash between these two. Its tone is consistently silly rather than trying to balance being silly and serious, which, I mean, a lot of movies, not just monster movies, movies in general fail at trying to balance that tone, so props to them for just sticking with one. The model work of the city is pretty cool. Like, I cannot take that away from these movies. The model work in the cities is really good. Like, it is almost lifelike. It is very, very well done. And the destruction is excellent. Seeing these models being destroyed by these rubber suit monsters is really cool. And it'll never cease ever being cool. Like, even in terrible movies like War of the Gargantuous, it still has that cool city destruction aspect. Many moments, intentional or not, are very funny. I mean, you literally have a scene where King Kong stuffs a tree into Godzilla's mouth. How can you not laugh at that? Runtime is brisk, the pacing is fast, and the ending is good. It's one of those versus movies where they don't really decide a victor. Again, a lot like both Freddy vs. Jason and Alien vs. Predator. Two movies I've already reviewed, and two movies I actually kind of like, so. I don't hate these crossover films. Don't think that just because it's a crossover film, I'm going to hate it. But I will say, in comparison to Freddy vs. Jason and Alien vs. Predator, the first one, not the piece of shit Requiem, this is inferior. Heck, I'd say it's even inferior to Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, a movie that is completely just absolute mess on a story level. But we'll talk about that one at another time. However, in trying to be an actual movie, it pretty much completely fails. The story is completely pointless and complete fluff. The characters are boring and pointless and do nothing to advance the story. The beginning of the so-called plot is tedious as hell. The writing is a mess, the dialogue is cliche, the human villains, if you want to even call them that, are absolute throwaway, and Kong's design, despite being made years after the original 1933 masterpiece that pretty much perfected his design in every single way possible, is atrocious. Like, I get it, it's a rubber suit monster, you can only do so much, but heck, even Godzilla, who looks pretty dumb as well, he looks fine. I can accept him. Kong, for his second ever movie appearance? This is freaking lousy. He looks like walking roadkill. Like, it is so bad. Like, the design is so bad. I'm not even gonna try to dance my way around it. Kong's design in this movie is monkey shit. That's what it is. In conclusion, it is a mindless, silly, fun movie when the monsters are actually on screen and kicking the crap out of each other like you want them to. But otherwise, it is a tedious slog. It is a definite one and done. Then just rewatch the fight on YouTube whenever you're in the mood for it. Because the fight in this movie is great, but it's not worth sifting through so much pointless, boring, slow shit to get there. So, I mean, maybe that's controversial, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big kaiju person, so I'm more doing this because of the new one that came out. And if I don't talk about these movies now, I'm going to talk about them later. So, yeah, that's the way I see it. I'm not doing it out of spite. There are movies in this kaiju-thology, I'm going to call it, that I do really like. I gave very overwhelmingly positive review to King Kong, and I was really nice to Godzilla 54. But this, like I said in those two reviews, this one, I'm just not a fan of these goofy, blatantly silly, dumb movies. Like, I enjoy dumb comedy. I have watched plenty of dumb comedies. But this just doesn't work, because it's not meant to be a dumb comedy. It's meant to be like an epic, disastrous, dramatic, friggin' monster movie. This is not that. It's just goofy, over the top, and silly for the sake of being goofy, over the top, and silly. It's the definition of turn your brain off entertainment. In other words, the label that people give to the Fast and Furious franchise. So, with all that said, I do enjoy this movie. I do think it is worth a watch, but it is not worth more than that outside of the fights. Call me shallow, that's just how it is. Final verdict for King Kong vs. Godzilla is a brutally honest and unfortunately pretty disappointing 5.5 out of 10. I can't give it a 6, I can't call it good because as a movie, it completely fails. But in terms of its actual battle and its actual monster stuff, that's when it's actually worth watching. But outside of that, it is a boring, tedious slog. You know, a lot like these other crossover movies that just shoehorn in human characters even though we came to see the two monsters fight each other, not spend our time with boring human shit. I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as a certain other kaiju movie we'll get to, but, yeah, the human stuff is just not good in this movie at all. And it just leads to this movie being just forgettable filler. That's all it is. It is forgettable filler that made money because it was two iconic monsters fighting each other. When we got that, it was fun. When we didn't, it was a pain in the ass. And that's it. Probably controversial, but it's just my opinion. If you love this movie, continue to love it. It's just not for me. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And, but compared to what we have to review next, it is fucking Oscar worthy. Join me next time when we take a look at this rancid piece of lizard shit.
You cannot take me anymore.